Welcome to the Dream Journal. From the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, the Dream Journal is a weekly show where we explore the power of nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with listeners like you. A dream can be meaningful, even if you don't know what it means. Treating dissociation with Dreamwork. Today you will meet psychotherapist Marilyn D, who treats women with acute stress disorder using what she calls Dream Psychotherapy. I am your host, Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. We are also a weekly podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review, but most importantly, tell your friends about the show. The whole mission of the show is to get folks talking about dreams, and one way you can do that is by telling them about this podcast. You can find archives at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all those places. You can also go to our homepage, ksqd.org/the-dream-journal. I just want to talk for a moment about a recent dream. A dear friend of mine passed away right about a year ago, a good friend of mine and my husband. And it was also within a few weeks when my father passed away. And so I had a dream a few nights ago about trying to get a phone call to the hospital, and we were worried that somebody there, a woman, a friend of mine that I didn't know in the dream, just some person, some female, was probably dying. But while I'm on the phone, I'm saying, well, good thing this other friend of ours is okay, who is the man who actually did pass away a year ago. But in the dream, I had it switched around. And so it's just kind of with fall coming on, we're in the 5th season, and the leaves are starting to turn and all that. It feels like there's a little bit of sadness and letting go, and maybe some acknowledgement of the losses that we have all experienced so much of in this life. Well, let me say hello to our guest, Marilyn. Hello.
Hi, Catherine.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for sharing that dream. It was very touching.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, it's a real treat to have you in the studio because so often I never even lay eyes on the guests. And so it's great to have you right here in person. Yeah. Marilyn D. Manzi specializes in treating acute stress disorder and using Dream Psychotherapy. Her approach helps women transform trauma into resilience, enabling them to thrive in life with greater self-awareness and authentic expression. Marilyn is currently building on-demand courses for people and clinicians, and you can find her webpage at marilynmanzi.com. And Manzi is M-A-N-Z-I, so marilynmanzi.com. So I want to start out by asking you about dissociation. What is it?
Yeah, so the way I want to just touch into this is acute stress disorder. The reason I want to treat that is because if it's not treated, it can turn into PTSD. Okay. A lot of us have an idea of what that looks like from film.
Well, say more about that. What is acute stress disorder?
So let's say you're exposed to a traumatic event, you hear about it. Yeah. So it can be secondary trauma. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get in too much to the pain of it right now, if that's okay.
But there's pain in it.
Yeah, and maybe it'll make sense. It can get pretty dark quickly.
Okay.
Well, let's just say there's some exposure.
Mm-hmm.
3 days after, on the 4th day, if you're still experiencing some symptoms, there needs to be 9 symptoms in order for it to be acute stress disorder.
Okay.
And if it goes on, so it's from 4th day to up to 4 weeks, post that, if it's not treated, it can turn into PTSD.
Oh, I see. So that when something traumatic happens, that there's this window where you can process it, or you kind of get stuck. Is that what you're saying? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but acute stress disorder is in the first month after the event?
Correct. Up to a month.
There's things like intrusive thoughts. Like I've had things like, the fire for me was pretty traumatic when there was the fire up around my house. And I would get these thoughts of just like these intense visions of fire.
That's exactly.
Okay.
I lived in Portland as the pandemic started. We had fires, we had riots. It was really intense.
Wow.
And so there were these really loud sounds that would happen around 11 p.m. at night. And it would just wake me up. And it took me a while for my body to process that those sounds weren't happening when I moved back to California.
Okay. But of course, most people who undergo traumatic events do not have PTSD, that they have some way of processing this. But if these symptoms persist after a month, then it can be turning into PTSD.
It could.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nightmares, for example.
Right.
You wake up with sweats, heart palpitations, hallucinations, if you don't get enough sleep.
Well, that sounds incredibly disruptive. That can just really take over your life if that happens.
Yes.
And I know there's a lot of veterans or people who have lived through car crashes and fires and things like that they have this to deal with. And so this is something that you specialize in, right?
Yeah.
This must be intense hearing people's stories about what they went through, their traumas.
It can be, but there's something so powerful. So dissociation.
Yes.
When someone's talking about the trauma, if you notice that they're not connected somatically, that's so powerful.
So how can you recognize that? How do you know if someone's connecting or not connecting?
So in the session, I'll ask them to tell the story of the dream, the nightmare that's connected to what happened. It could be the event as well. And then if I notice them not be present, I'll ask them, like, what are you sensing in this part of your body? And I look for something sharp and tight. So acute is sharp, and then tightness is stress.
Okay.
So I look for those elements, and I kind of wait until I'm emotionally connected to them. And then I know we're attuned.
Okay.
And then there's a co-regulation that happens. And then the body is processing the trauma with someone there.
Right, because of course, why would we want to feel that horrible feeling? Like this is why we go into dissociation. It's not a problem, and it's only a problem if it goes on too long. But why would we want to feel these feelings?
That's exactly what our brain does.
Yeah.
Our brain's protecting us. It's too much to bear. And that's why we need to share these traumas. We need to talk about them and connect with them and not hold them all on our own.
Oh, but some people don't have situations at home where they can talk about these things, or with their friends that maybe they're protecting their family from their own trauma.
Yeah.
And so that's where a therapist like you comes in.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I love that you're talking about how you work with people. Do you want to talk a little bit more? So you talk about this regulation, this co-regulation, I think is the word you use.
Yeah.
When you get together with a person and share some of the feelings. Is that what you mean? So that you're kind of feeling something of what they're feeling?
Yeah. So I like to really first get into the sensation. So if the person's telling me the story, I'll ask them what they're sensing in the body. That's going to bring them more present to their body. And then I'll ask them to emotionally attune. So whatever emotion they're experiencing, whether it's sad, mad, glad, excited, or scared. And then I'm attuned to them. I'm in the same emotional wavelength, if you want to call it that. And so we're attuned, we're connected, we're present. And I try to keep them as present as possible while we're processing the event. And then when it becomes really intense, like a trauma response can be, the brain hemispheres know how to take care of that. So we don't have to worry about anything to do at that point. It's just letting the body know what it needs to do in order to process the emotion. So when they go to sleep at night, they're not going to have this intense emotional experience and needing to go into a nightmare.
Okay. So now my understanding about PTSD with the nightmares is one of the defining characteristics of this, and that that basically they're so intense, the nightmares are so intense that they wake up before the nightmare can do its job, right? Because dreams have the job of regulating us emotionally. That's one of the main things they do.
Yes.
And so this can happen. So if you're saying that this process allows people to downregulate so that they can let the dreams do their work. Maybe you want to say a little bit more about how dreams are involved in this.
Yeah. So a story, when I was in Portland, my body knew there was still events happening out there. So I couldn't really recover. So the nightmares are giving me alerts to, you got to keep yourself safe, stay inside, don't go out past 7, things like that. When I left, I went to Mount Shasta, and it was so peaceful. And my body didn't know how to regulate at first. But then over about a course of a year, my nervous system and everything started to repair and just started to recognize I'm safe. And then sleep became what it used to be for me.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, because sleep is the balm, and then knits up the raveled sleeve of care or something like this. But then when you have nightmares, then sleep is not a balm, and sleep is something to be avoided, and that's terrible to have, because we need sleep as humans.
Right.
Yeah.
So in my work with people, I give them a rescript of whatever it is that they're going to narrate to the dream. So they have the nightmare, they wake up from it. Let's say they have heart palpitations and they're sweating and they're terrified to go back to sleep. We've been practicing in sessions how to re-script the nightmare. And also sometimes they'll draw a symbol. So I like to call it something numinous or something transcendent, because the unconscious will help us, because the unconscious wants us to continue evolving. It wants us to heal. And so if we can find that transcendence and we focus on that with the re-scripting, you bring those two together, and then there's this idea, I'm going to be in therapy this week, I'm going to take care of it later. I'm not avoiding it. There's a relaxation. And then the body is like, oh, we're actually safe right now. There's nothing happening. We're present to this safe bedroom, and we can go to sleep. And then just practice on breathing and the re-scripting, and then maybe the image you look at before you go to sleep.
So this is an image that you create with the client, that you create together, or the symbol you're mentioning?
Comes from their dreams.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So I look for something constructive in the dreams. If there's a lot of destruction, I don't work with those dreams for healing. If there's something numinous or something that's holding the tension of opposites in some way, that's illuminating in the dream and has forward or upward movement sometimes, that's what I look for.
Oh, okay. Well, there's I'm thinking of a dream that I had a time ago of just destruction. Everything is falling apart. There's chaos, people fighting, killing each other. But then there's one moment when I see a particular friend of mine, a friend, he's not even a very close friend particularly, but he's someone I feel kind of calm when I'm with him. And he's just standing there gazing at a fire. And and then the dream continues, and there's rats coming to gnaw my face. Whatever horrible thing happens, but when I went back into that dream, I remembered that moment of this friend of mine, looking at the fire, and just that calm moment gave me like this perspective, like, oh, I can like look at the fire, and just see what's going on. I don't have to, because I love bonfires. I love to have with my friends around the fire at night. And so it gave me like a perspective, calm perspective. So even I could look at this horrible dream and kind of look at it with this calm perspective from a distance. So backing up from the dream was really helpful.
What's really interesting, you talked about the fires earlier.
Yeah.
And then you just talked about a fire that's more contained.
True.
And how there's destruction versus something that can be constructive and creative.
Ooh, I love that, because a fire out of control can be incredibly destructive, but in control it can be a catalyst. It can cook our foods. It can warm us. It's very valuable.
Yes.
And so these feelings too, they can be out of control or they can be more contained, right?
Yeah, and fire is, at least from my experience of fire, it's connected to transformation.
Yes, the kind of alchemy.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. It's kind of the catalyst of the cooking of who we are.
Yeah.
Transformation. So you mentioned transcendence. Do you want to say a little bit more about transcendence?
Oof. A little bit more about transcendence.
Yeah. Like what you mentioned, you look for kind of an upward movement or something coming together, or.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can relate to something that happened recently.
Yeah.
The way I can describe it is, so let's say you're having a theme of black and white in your dream.
Yep.
So I think about tension of opposites. It can be the gray. So when you're holding the tension of opposites, you're an astrophysicist.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm talking from far away from what you know. But just this kind of sense of being in the tension of opposites and how shaky it can be, and how we want to go back to homeostasis because it's comfortable, and it's just staying with until something third comes in. Ooh, so like the transcendent function. Okay,
because of course I want to choose one or the other, but maybe I need to stay with both. Maybe the opposites, there's some value in this tension.
Yes.
And I know Carl Jung was very big on this.
Yes.
And I know you've mentioned, Carl Jung on your webpage, that this is one of your influences. And what if you want to say a little bit about, and I think he coined the term, the tension of the opposites. Okay.
I have a deep respect for Carl Jung and a lot of Jungian analysts that I've had the privilege of being around. I interned at the C.G. Jung Institute, Los Angeles, and I did preliminary training at Santa Fe. Oh, nice. So I've been around, and I was just I don't know where to start with how much I've learned. But I just want to pay deep respect to any of the Jungian analysts that are out there that are listening. Thank you so much for the wisdom you've given me, and the treacherous path of individuation and trusting in the wisdom of dreams.
Okay. Right, exactly. There's something, even the dreams we don't remember, they have some function beyond us working with them in waking life. I really believe that. I think they're evolutionarily important. There's some reason that all creatures that have been studied dream. And even as far as I know, the cuttlefish don't talk about their dreaming, even though we heard at the ISD conference that cuttlefish seem to have periods of when they're sleeping, when they dream, because they'll flash danger signals even while they're asleep, which is a sign that they're imagining danger.
Wow.
So nightmares of a cuttlefish, but yet there's something valuable about that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So
It's
trusting the
almost
wisdom
like
of the dreams is.
maybe the waking life is we're being prepared for what's ahead. So we emotionally prepare ourselves to cope with the challenges of life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that dreams also, there's premonitions in dreams. So it'll give us an instinct of what to prepare for the next day.
Mm. Oh, so like I've sort of heard people talk about rehearsal, like that we can kind of rehearse things that are happening or that are going to happen in our dreams, the dream rehearsal.
Yes.
Yeah, and some people will deliberately do lucid dreaming and do some skill, like some athletic skill, and they can practice it while they're lucid dreaming. I've never had much luck with lucid dreaming, I know, but you've heard about those things, I imagine, too, Marilyn.
Oh, I've been practicing dream incubation.
Oh, tell me about that.
So if I have a problem that I'm trying to solve,
Mm-hmm.
I trust in the power of intuition. So I'll go into dream incubation before I go to sleep. I'll propose the problem, and I'll ask for the dream to show me what it is that I'm not seeing in conscious waking life, and to show me a different path to pivot or maybe handle the problem differently.
Mm. And how do you feel comfortable to share an example with us of something that you've found helpful?
I think in the respect of working with certain people in my practice, what am I not getting? What am I missing? Show me, where I can connect with this person. Because sometimes it's really hard to connect because I do a lot of audio and video sessions. I don't have any in-person sessions right now.
Right.
So I really have to rely on what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing from, chest up.
Yeah.
And what am I missing?
Right.
And so dreams can inform me. So dreams will actually come to me before I meet with that person and give me an awakening. Like, this is what you're about to deal with. And then I'll also notice I'm kind of out of character sometimes. I'm like, this is not like me. How come I'm... And then I realize, this is preparing me to work with this person, so I'm attuned before I arrive.
Oh.
So that's been incredibly helpful.
Interesting. Even people that you've never met before, or usually these are people that you've been in sessions with, but
Both.
immediately both. Oh, interesting.
Before a phone consultation sometimes.
Okay. Interesting. Wow. So there's some little bit of information crossing through the ethers here.
Yes.
Apparently. I love that. And so you do what you call what you do Dream Psychotherapy. And how is that different from regular psychotherapy? Because psychotherapists deal with dreams, maybe not as often as they could, but so how do you describe that, Dream Psychotherapy?
Well, I was trying to figure out what worked.
Yeah.
So the pandemic started, a lot of people came in, and I just basically had to lean into what I know from Jungian psychology, which is also called analytical psychology, and working with dreams. There was a ton of trauma with the pandemic. There were the fires in Portland, the riots. I mean, people were just doing their best. And then I'm also a therapist at the time, so I'm dealing with my own stuff and then also with other people's trauma. And I was like, how am I going to handle being grounded through all this, being of service, and not get ill?
Right.
It's basically like what my driving force was. And I just doubled down on sleep. I kept my life simple. I ate good foods. I worked out. I did everything I could to take care of myself. And over the course of that, I started to see people being okay, not developing PTSD. Their dreams were starting to become less intense. And then I felt an inclination to actually look at what I was doing. And so then I just started to break down the sessions. I'm like, what is my intuition actually doing here? And so I simplified it into 4 weeks with acute stress disorder. And I have a huge passion for preventing PTSD. So I brought those two together. And when you bring those two together in the sense of my understanding with intuition, I learned that it reduces physiological pain and it prevents nightmares for the future.
So you basically would like to get people, ideally, to speak to you. I was going to say into your office, but of course it's not in person anymore. But you would really like to speak to people as soon as possible after a trauma, right?
That's an issue because that's ideal. But sometimes when you go through the trauma, it's hard to find a therapist.
Yeah.
So,
or you may not know how badly wounded you are because dissociation, thank you very much. I don't feel anything. So I'm probably okay, right? Because I don't feel anything.
Exactly. So these are people that I've been working with already. And so what ended up happening, I'm working with them already, and then the pandemic happened.
Oh, I see.
So comorbid. Mm-hmm. There was something else going on that brought them into therapy, and then the pandemic happened.
Okay.
So then it was helping them navigate through the trauma of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So the only research I have, it's not based on new people coming in right after a trauma, primarily. Okay. It's mostly people that were already working with me and have been working with me for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you've mentioned there's like a process where you go through certain things each week, like you have a different things. Do you want to say a little bit about your process?
Sure. So week 1, it's about psychosomatic connection. Okay. So it's helping the person become less dissociated. Mm-hmm. So them getting in tune with me, and then I'm touching into their sensations and helping them become more present with the material. Mm-hmm. And then we look at a dream, if they have one, a nightmare specifically. Mm-hmm. Week 2, it's associations, which helps organize the information. So when you have a meaning to something, it kind of, I don't want to say it deadens the dream, but it helps you sort through what's really active.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, I missed something. When you have a what? What deadens the dream? Oh, you have a...
Well, I'm thinking of just meaning.
Meaning?
In mathematics, you have an equation, you have a solution. There you go. Boom.
So when you give this dream means so-and-so, that deadens it. Yeah.
I mean, there's and I mean that in a respectful way. It kind of sorts through what's happening for the person emotionally. So the associations help organize that from my sense of it, and then it brings up and amplifies what's happening emotionally. So that's week 2. And then I'm guiding them on how to work through their own dream material. And then in week 3, they actually show me what they did, what steps they took to work through the dream or the nightmare, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And then I'll refine in that week 3. Mm-hmm. And then week 4, hopefully we already have reached a place where that's resolved and they'll be okay and they know what to do. They have a protocol to practice in week 5 plus.
Okay, and then so would they bring additional dreams when they have other dreams, and you can go through a similar process? Because the dreams, one of the cool things about Dreamwork is watching the evolution of someone's dreams. My own dreams, other people's dreams, is that certain themes come and go, and I have themes that last for years, and then they start to fade away. I'm like, oh yay, it's going away, and like I have this chasing an airplane, trying to get to the airport on time, trying to get to the airplane, trying to get on board on time, which was a theme for me for years, and it's really faded away. And so I think it must signify something in me that has changed. And I have never made a one-to-one correspondence. Yeah, it probably has something to do with the fact that I tend to be in a hurry a lot of the time. That I'm always trying to get somewhere. And that really has lessened over time. But I love your idea of not trying to not pin a dream down with a meaning. Like I like to think of that sometimes as like a butterfly collection. Like, oh, look, I put my beautiful butterfly, I put a pin in it. It's on the board. Yeah, but now it's dead.
Right.
How do we keep the butterfly alive?
Right. I was remembering your talk in the Netherlands. I think someone asked a question, and there was something about you had direction with someone who was telling you how to move with the dream, and then it seemed like your emphasis was about being more open to the dream, being more receptive to the dream.
Yeah, trying not to come to conclusions about the dream.
Right.
Just and we have this thing in our groups which we call stirring the pot, which is that even if you do have come up with some idea around a dream, like, oh, that really reminds me of this thing that's happening in waking life, is to stir the pot, is to look at absolutely the opposite. Like maybe this, maybe this character that I thought was being helpful is actually trying to hurt me, or vice versa. It's more typically the other way. Like you have someone trying to hurt you in a dream, and then you start to think about how this person might be helping me in some way. So trying to flip the meaning, partly to keep myself unsettled or keep myself from settling on a meaning.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. This is very interesting. So I wonder if you have, we have a question actually from a listener who are, shall we say, an Instagram follower who sent me an email asking a question for you, Marilyn Manzi, and I would like to say this is from Risa by email. And she wanted to ask about the individuation process and how dreams play a role in that process. I wonder if you'd like to say a little bit about individuation. I know that's a very Jungian term.
Yes. Oh, the scholars will be harsh on this with me. I will do my best. I've had a lot of exposure, and I think it's an incredibly complex situation and problem to solve. Or I shouldn't say problem to solve.
Well, how do you define an individuation? Like, what does that even mean?
Well, I'll just give you a definition from Carl Jung.
Okay.
It's the process of becoming one's true self by integrating the conscious and unconscious aspects of the psyche. So,
okay. True self.
Yeah, what does that mean? True
Right.
self, right? So the way I'm going to break this down from my own spin on it, you have dreams which tell you about your nature. That's who you are. I like to look at, and some Jungians may not agree with this, the way I like to look at it with individuation, I look for what's constructive. I don't want to bring out what's destructive to humanity. That's my own stuff to hold and work with. And I bring that to my own Jungian analysis, or I talk about that with people that I know are going to know how to work with that kind of material to help me make something different of it. So if I'm going to live out my dream or live out my nature, it's helpful. It's supportive. It might be inspirational. It might encourage others. And I try to bring more of that out into integration. The destructive aspects, I do that more in private.
Okay, good, but they're both valuable, right?
They're both,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
But the we can unload on others, right? And that can, so secondary trauma. If you're a therapist, you're trained, you know how to work with trauma, you can hear those stories and work with that material. You have your own rituals or whatever it is that you do. But if you're just someone that's, I don't know, a first responder, I mean, that's a lot of exposure, and how do you cope with that kind of?
Oh, I have a dear friend who's also a dream worker who's a ER. He's an anesthetist, but works in the emergency room, and the things he tells me, he tells matter of factly. I'm like, wow, all these intense traumas that he just part of his everyday job. I'm so grateful he's willing to do that. But that's like, how do you process that? I mean, I know some therapists who have put crystals all around their chair,
right,
and do rituals, because it can be traumatizing to hear other people's traumas, and you want to be there to support them,
right.
And we need to take our break, but I wonder if it's okay with you. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the process of being a psychotherapist and like what you do to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Good.
So this is Marilyn Manzi, and her webpage is marilynmanzi.com. Manzi is Manzi, Marilyn Manzi. And we're talking about dream psychotherapy, PTSD, acute stress disorder, dissociation, and how dreams help with all that. We are broadcast live from the KSQD studios in Santa Cruz and co-broadcast live in San Jose by KCXU. My name is Catherine Bell, and you are listening to The Dream Journal. Okay, you are listening to The Dream Journal. My name is Catherine Bell. I want to go ahead and welcome our far-flung listeners from all around the country. So glad to have you on the show. There's Scotts Valley, California, Aptos, San Jose, San Francisco. Then we have listeners in Portland, Oregon, and Peoria, Arizona. Welcome to you. Ashburn, Virginia, and Emmaus, Pennsylvania. So glad to have you tuned into the show. You can check us out on Instagram and Facebook by following hashtag The Dream Journal. I post regular announcements about upcoming shows, and also you'll be the first to know when the podcast drops on Mondays. All right, so this is The Dream Journal, and our guest today is Marilyn Manzi. We are talking about dream psychotherapy, acute stress disorder, and dissociation. And I wanted to ask a little bit about the process of being a therapist. Like, I'm kind of a therapist wannabe. After I quit my job at NASA, I actually looked into getting a degree at Pacifica to be a clinician, and I was totally intimidated by, well, the cost and the time, the hours that I'd have to put in. By then I was my mid-50s, and I'm like, I don't think I'm going to do that. But there is something that about that level of training that I'm sure is incredibly valuable. And Marilyn, I wonder if you'd like to share with us some of how it is for you to be a therapist, and any suggestion you have for people wanting to get into psychotherapy.
First of all, I just want to say that your presence is therapeutic.
Oh, thank you.
I was incredibly nervous to come in here, and then your instinct to give me a hug made such a difference. And so, if you don't have the training as a therapist, sometimes you just naturally are. And your training as an astrophysicist, you worked at NASA, you're on this radio show, you obviously have a huge passion for dreams.
I do.
I mean,
and I've created my own experience. I use the show to educate myself, but I'm not a licensed psychotherapist by any means.
Right. But I think you have a lot of credit, and so I just want to support you in that.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah. So becoming a therapist, bachelor's, master's, and then you have 3,000 hours.
Oof, wow.
Including supervision. You're also in your own therapy. I've been personally in therapy majority of since 2009, with the exception of maybe 2 years. I'm in Jungian analysis. That's really important to me. I like to work with my dreams, and I like the way that my current analyst holds me accountable. He does not sugarcoat it. And I think that was probably the shift in the kind of training that I had with graduate school. It was kind of soft, which I appreciated. I needed that at the time. And then as I went into my internship at the Jung Institute, it was more about being authentic. So I was like, drop the polite stuff, like just be who you are. So I had to figure out how to be myself while also being kind. Right? It's kind of like, how do you see yourself maybe people pleasing, for example?
I know that one.
Yeah. And getting comfortable with saying no, and then people being disappointed with you.
Right.
That was the training. So that's one part of it. And then I like to surf. So during 2020, I moved back to LA from Portland, and I was like, I need to figure out something to help me process the emotions that I'm experiencing for my body to recover. And nature, I really am a huge advocate for being in nature. So hikes, long walks, surfing. I'm surfing actually after this.
Oh, great.
And sleep. I go to bed around, honestly, 8 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. I'm in bed reading because I work with people 3 days in a row, and it can be pretty intense.
Yeah.
So, and I make all my meals. So I really put a huge emphasis on the nutrition I put in my body, sleep. I go to the gym in the morning on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays I run. I do yoga on Fridays. I go for really long walks. I actually walk to Sausalito and back just to get it over the Golden Gate Bridge.
All the way over the bridge and back. Oh, wow. That's a long way.
That depends on the week that I have. Sometimes I need to just recharge that way. It really depends on the material I'm working with, what my body's processing, and what my body's asking me to maybe be in a place of releasing or to be reflective upon. Just depends week to week.
So a lot of self-care and your own therapy, your own personal, psychotherapy.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So we do have a caller on the line. Hi. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello. Excuse me. This is Jenny.
Okay. Hi, Jenny.
Hi. And I've been sitting with this dream for a couple of weeks. I don't know that it's especially appropriate for your guest today, but I'm so glad to be able to talk about it with you because it just sits with me. So
well, I think any dream would be perfect, especially the kind that sticks in your mind. Where are you calling from, Jenny?
I am in Santa Cruz.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you tell us your dream as much as you're comfortable? And Marilyn and I are right here. We're listening to you.
This is on board a ship. A small group of mostly women are part of a circle led by two young women in an interesting room that is part of an artistic homestead. It is an extra room that has been prepared for this first group. I have come from the ship to be part of it. Michael F. is there too, younger, eager to get my attention. In the beginning, he follows me around, although I have earplugs and my eye bags on as I am walking about. I don't remember anything about the actual circle. Were there meditations or any guidance? I don't think so. From the start, I knew more than anybody there about it all. Chris was there. She seemed to be sleeping the whole time. There were many small stone figurine-like women bending down, laying over as if bowing, rounded figures. I wanted to touch them. There were flowers and crystals about. At the end, they moved a wall to open up the room. Then it had a rounded circular aspect, all painted in stucco with many adjacent figures, many different images, faces, aspects, and cultures depicted. I started to gather up my things to leave, looking for a place to put a stone from a prune or a piece of fruit. I moved up to speak to the two young organizers. They were distracted, not addressing me at all. Somehow, I looked through my wallet and questioned as I handed them a 5-pound note, wondering why I had it and why I gave it to them. Later, I looked at a pile of various bills in an attempt to take it back because I gave it to them for no reason, but I felt bad for wanting to do that. Bad karma at a sacred ceremony. I lingered there. I walked between two tables put together. As I moved, I saw the tablecloth split. I saw people noticing this action. The man whose home it was came in with large pieces of wood or steel, no idea what he was doing. I looked for a phone to call the ship to arrange a way back. Michael came over to stand in front of me. He said he had not been drinking in many years. He had no way to help me get to the ship. He left. I was still waiting for Chris to rouse. I felt disappointed and disillusioned by the lack of conclusion or acknowledgement. I knew I could have done so much better at leading than they did. It would have been easy. I woke unhappy about the 5-pound note and the lack of organization, but understood these young women have to learn by doing it their own way.
Wow. Jenny, this is a lot. There's a powerful dream with a lot of different themes. So what is it the most vivid part of it for you? What's the most vivid image?
Well, the most vivid image is the round, stone figures that were so beautiful, that were all like bowing. They were so beautiful, and also the way the tablecloth like split as I walked through it somehow.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Jenny, I just want to say I have chills hearing this dream.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This sounds like an individuation dream to me. And I don't know if you paint or you create or make song or whatever it is you do to express yourself. It just seems like there's so much connection here for you.
Yes.
Especially with the image of a circle. That has to do with wholeness or connection to self. And so if you can capture that and actually bring that out into your reality where you can feel and sense and look and bring into when you're awake. I'm really curious, I know we don't have a ton of time today, who Michael is to you, and then who is it?
A man that I was married to for a very short time, a very, very, very long time ago. And I never think about him, and so it was very surprising to see him in his sort of early eagerness to be there kind of way.
So there's a connection here. When you see him, what do you feel?
Well, like I said, I had my eye bags on and my earplugs in.
But so when you go into the dream, not not what the dream is showing you right now.
Mm.
You see Michael. You're married to him.
I always just push him away. I have no interest at all.
So there's this part of you in waking life that wants to push him away, and yet in the dream, there he is.
Right.
Twice. I think he comes back near the end of the dream, too. Yeah.
Right. Trying to get my attention.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's this part of your psyche that pushes away.
Right.
And then there's this part of the dream that is showing you the circle that seems, I think you used the word sacred. And there's this split, did you say, with the cloth?
Yes.
Right. So there's a part of you that can, well, I don't want to interpret this on radio. I would say work with those parts, those elements, to understand more about your nature in relationship to others.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense, Jenny?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, in the dream training that I've had, we would make a title for it, and I feel sort of strange of this, the dream of a woman who knows too much.
Oh, is that what that would be your title?
Yeah.
Oh, knows too much. Oh.
In Jungian psychology, that could be the animus. So if you find a part of your psyche that just knows everything, can be domineering. Yes, that's what we call the animus in Jungian psychology.
Yes.
And it functions in such a way where it's autonomous. So it's a part of psychology in the sense of it's out there and yet it serves its own function.
That's how it felt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jenny, I have a question for you that, for me, there seems like there's a lot of longing in this dream. Like there's a sense, this phrase, the lack of acknowledgement, and that those women were not doing as well as I could have done it. You know, and is there a longing for me to actually lead ceremony? I mean, like, Mike, is there a way that, and you know, whether I do it with other people or by myself down by the ocean or anything, that there's a way, there's a craving for ceremony in my life?
Well, I used to do things like that, and it begins to feel like this new season, you know, could be for opening to that again. But I hadn't thought of it in that way of longing or unmet needs that I can meet.
Yeah, and yes, this is it. There's so many women in this dream. I'm on a ship. The women circle, the sleeping women, the bowing women, the giving the money, wanting it back, and and then there's just one glimpse of the man who comes around twice. It's like, what is the me, the Jenny here? Who am I as these different characters in the dream?
Well, it feels like what your guest was saying, like I'm above it all, watching this, and I'm not even there while I'm there.
Yeah, I have a lot of tenderness for that. I have a lot of tenderness. Sometimes I see my life from a distance, and I want to be more involved in my life, and so I have a lot of tenderness as you talk about that.
Oh, it's so interesting to hear you say that, Catherine. Really.
Oh, Jenny, thank you. This is beautiful. I hope this has been helpful, just a little touching. Do you Marilyn, do you have anything else you want to?
No, I just feel really touched in my heart right now. Thank you for sharing this with us, Jenny.
Thank you for letting me open, because talking about it helps.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much.
Good. Thanks for calling, Jenny. It was a real treat to have you on the show. Thank you for this beautiful dream. Okay. So Marilyn, that was wonderful to open that up, and you know, it's always so quick on the show. It's just you have a few minutes to really, but there's something about people sharing the dreams that it's so powerful.
Yeah, it's this warmth just came in.
Yeah,
and I feel so connected to you right now.
I know.
It's just, and
Jenny, who we've never even seen.
Right. Exactly.
She's right here for me too. Yeah. So we have about 5 or 6 minutes left on the show. I wonder if you have any other topics that you want to get into, or anything you want to revisit, or what's up for you right now, Marilyn?
I want to ask about you, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be fine.
I'm really curious about you being an astrophysicist.
Yeah.
And what you learned from that experience and how that bridged you to dreams.
Yeah, right.
Like how you bridge those two together. That makes sense on the show.
Sure, yeah. So astrophysics was something that I got into partly because of influence from my family. We have a lot of science in my family. Both my parents, all three of my siblings are hardcore scientists. Like, so that seemed like the only way I could go. I just seemed like the natural way to go. I don't want to think it was coercive or anything. It just seemed like that was the natural thing to do. And we would joke about physics, it's science without the smell, because it wasn't chemistry or biology. And so I went even farther away from the smell into astrophysics, where it's like out in the realms, the astral realms in some way. And it's just, there was some kind of curiosity for me about the depths and about the origins of our planetary system, which is what I studied at NASA, was the origins of the planets and stars and planets. And but I just didn't find it satisfying. I found that level of curiosity was not enough to sustain me. It felt kind of hollow. And so I had the opportunity to quit after my son was born, and so in 2004. And so I did, but then my marriage fell apart, and then I was like, now what? I have like nothing. I mean, my job, I left my job, and I really had a hard time as a mom. It was very challenging to be a mother, and single mother. I had a lot of support, but still there was a lot of single mom time. I found the dreams were just so powerful, and I'd been interested in my dreams since, always, I guess. I have childhood dreams I'm still fascinated by. I was in a group at that time from the 90s up through the mid-'80s. But the dreams just seemed to have a lot to say. Like this time when I was so at sea and wondering what the next steps would be. And there was so much richness in my dreams and value, even though I didn't understand the dreams. It seemed like I could have a conversation with them, and I followed them, and I started doing training about dreams, and it just kind of went deeper and deeper, and I just found there was so much value in the dreams. And then I started dreaming about working with other people about their dreams, and so so I started doing that, and that's been incredibly rewarding. So it's just kind of like following the breadcrumbs, and the dreams have just been really compelling for me over the years.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Is there a way that because your approach is so unique, I'm sure, to Dreamwork, and I'm just curious if there's a way to simplify it for those of us that aren't scientists.
Sure. Well, I actually, the phrase I like to use is the treasure hunt. Oh. And that because even the most difficult dreams, there's something valuable in almost every single dream. I can't say every dream, but in almost every dream, like just the one I shared earlier where there's all this chaos, and yet there's this one moment of a friend of mine just gazing very calmly, standing calmly, looking at the fire, that there's a treasure even in that really difficult dream. And so I'm looking for the beautiful things. And so often the dreams we remember are difficult dreams. And yet there's value there. So I can trust that even the difficult dreams have some value. So I'm writing a book, as listeners will know. I'm in the editing stages. And it's about learning to look for the good stuff in your dreams. And, of course, it comes off in your life. You start to look for the good stuff in your life, too.
I love that.
Thank you, Marilyn. You said that you are preparing some material for courses, and I wanted to say, what kind of topics are you going to be addressing, and what platforms?
I'm still refining it, although I think it's going to be focused on helping people improve their sleep. Because I think we just function better as human beings when we get better sleep. You
were talking about the 8 o'clock sleep time. I'm like, yes, I'm raising my hand. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we're in bed by 8 and try to be lights out by 9, because I wake up early anyway. It doesn't seem to matter if I go to stay up late. I still wake up early, so I might as well go to bed early. Yeah. Improving sleep, that seems incredibly valuable, something that we all could benefit from.
Yep.
Excellent. This is Marilyn Manzi. She practices what she calls Dream Psychotherapy, and you can get in touch with her at her webpage, marilynmanzi.com, MANZI.com, and you can learn all about Dream Psychotherapy. And I wonder if you have any final thoughts or admonitions or encouragements for our listeners that you would like to share.
Stay with the constructive dreams, pay attention, bring them out into your waking life. Whether you have an image from the dream, go on Google, find the image, print it out, look at it, and stay in touch.
Oh, okay. I love it. That's beautiful. Marilyn, this is fabulous. Thanks so much. And thanks for being here in the studio. It's just a treat.
Oh, it's a privilege, truly. Thank you.
So thank you so much for listening to the show. The Dream Journal is produced at the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz. We are live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific at ksqd.org in case you'd like to call in and hear what goes on behind the scenes. The podcast is released on the Monday after the show. It spreads interest in dreaming when you subscribe, rate, and review. We would like to make that algorithm work in our behalf. Let the algorithm know that we like dreams. So contact me if you'd like to be a guest on the show, to promote a new book, or to tell folks about your dream-related offerings. I also like to feature people who are just dream enthusiasts who are interested in their own dreams and would like to talk about them on the air. My name is Catherine Bell. You can find out about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com. You can email me at catherine@ksqd.org. That's KATHERINE@ksqd.org. You can follow Experiential Dreamwork and hashtag the Dream Journal on Facebook and Instagram to find out about upcoming shows. I'd like to thank Eric Nelson for stepping in as engineer today. Rick Cleffel is the music creator for both the background music and the intro and outro music. You can find out the ambient music at pandemia.com. And thanks to my husband, Matt Deaton, for answering the phones. The intro and outro pieces are both by Mood Science. And tomorrow morning when you wake up, take a minute to write down your dream and bring it to the next Dream Journal.